The police clampdown after August's riots has seen more than 100 children arrested and held in custody for alleged criminal disorder. Now the government's been accused of breaking the UN Convention on the Rights of a Child. The criticism has come from the Howard League for Penal Reform and UNICEF. Alex Bushell reports.
Are the rights of a child sacrosanct, or should a teenager who loots, robs and vandalises be treated the same as an adult? Today the government defended its record since August's rioting of keeping children in custody as they await trial. Of a total of 219 child suspects in London, 39% were remanded in custody. Nearly half of them have no previous criminal convictions. That compares to a remand rate of just 10% last year. That's why some believe the government has broken its own obligations under the UN Convention on the Rights of a Child, which states child custody must be a last resort.
Remand for children went up 4 times. There's no evidence that children were particularly involved in serious offences during the riots. There's no evidence really to suggest that this was anything other than the courts rushing people through and not necessarily considering whether, as children, they should receive a distinctive approach from the adults. And yet, as signatories to the United Nations Convention, children absolutely should receive a distinctive approach.
Julian Young agrees. He's a criminal solicitor. Among many, he recently represented a 12-year-old accused of stealing from a looted shop.
Initially, the Crown Prosecution Service objected to bail in 100% of the cases that I saw, and I was on duty on the first night at the City of Westminster Magistrates Court. Blanket objections, regardless of the individual facts in the cases. I think that was the wrong reaction. The law is supposed to be dispassionate. It wasn't.
Others are not swayed, particularly here in Croydon, scene of some of the worst rioting.
I think that these people were old enough to make the decisions to riot and to cause mayhem and damage, and so therefore they're old enough to suffer the sanctions.
In the court's defence, the government stresses custody is often used to prevent reoffending, particularly if more riots had ensued. And as the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child is not enshrined in UK law, it will now be left to the courts of appeal to decide how best to handle child suspects. Alex Bushell, BBC London News.
This week, the number of people out of work